Technology Services in the Division of IT. Very long title, right? And I want to talk to you today just about the classrooms, how far they've come in the time that I've been here at FIU, and share something that we've been working on for the last year. Spoiler alert, it's volumetric capture, if you didn't get that from all the other videos and such. So just a little bit about me. I've been at FIU for 10 years. During that time, I've been in the MTS department. One of my responsibilities is dealing with the multimedia and events crew. They're all back there, right? Let's give them a hand. I can tell you that's a very hard job. A lot of pressure. So the other side that I deal with, which deals with this talk, is the design, the install, and support of the general classrooms. And I can say that those classrooms have come a long way. So to give you just an overview of just what a general classroom is, it's a classroom that's not owned by a department per se. Any instructor can go into these classrooms and teach. We have over 200 of these classrooms, and they span all the campuses, MMC, BBC, I-75, so on. But the heart of the support is here at MMC. We've worked very hard to get these classrooms on a standard. So that standard led us to a very simple goal, right? Because we wanted to provide reliable technology that enhances the teaching and learning experience. Sounds very nice, right? But what does that mean? So what that means, short, is basically when you walk into a classroom, we don't want you to have to think about the technology. You go into the room, you teach, and it doesn't come up, right? If you have to think about what I have to press and whatnot, we've kind of failed you, right? But in the long answer, that meant that over the last 10 years, we had to make it that the technology itself was reliable and consistent. Because when I started, pretty much you could walk into one classroom and it was very different than any of the other classrooms. And they could be like right next to each other. So if you were teaching in one classroom and go to the next one, you'd be like, all right, I'm not really sure what to do here. Pushing the classrooms onto a standard really helped that experience. And then on top of that, then it was making sure we could deal with things remotely, because we would have pain points where if you had an issue in a classroom, you would then call 2815, which if you don't know that number, write it down, right? 72815. It's on all the classrooms. And then we would send someone out to the classrooms to support you. But depending on where you are on campus, it could be 15, 20 minutes, right? And now you're in a scenario where you've lost a lot of class time. And that's what we didn't want. And we helped solve that by making sure we put systems in place where the classrooms actually reported back and told us what was going on in the classrooms. And if, say, a projector failed, we would actually know before the projector failed or right when it happened. So it wasn't a professor that was reporting that in. And even having the functionality that we could change sources on the fly from in the green library. But all of these things very much focus on just the actual teaching side, right? Like the actual professors. And we really needed to focus on how the students were experiencing this technology. And 2020 really changed a lot of things, right? Because now it changed how we had to look at it. We had Zoom on campus before the pandemic. We were using MediaSite before the pandemic, but when it started, we now needed to think about more how the remote side were interacting with these technologies. And we now said, okay, well, they're coming in through Canvas. How do we make sure that that user experience is really good when they're coming through Canvas? So we worked with our ETS team to make sure that the tools were actually built into Canvas so that that user experience for students was really good. But that kind of led us to this whole scenario where we're like, there's so much more. And about a year ago, Carta came up to us and they were telling us, you know, we have a product that we think could actually improve this experience for students. So I actually want to show you a studio that we have here on MMC and in BBC in GL 181. So if we could go and see that space right quick. So this is a live shot of that studio. Hi, Alec, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can you come in the frame, please?
I sure can.
All right, so this is Alec. He works in the Volumetric studio along with Rosio, the assistant director of the space, and Milton, the manager of the space. There he is. Hi, Milton. So, Alec, can you give us a quick rundown of the space, please?
I sure can. So right here we have 8 poles, and on each of the 8 poles we have a number of cameras. And there's even a camera above me that is also capturing me.
All right. So I'm going to ask you to do a quick recording. And at the end of this talk, I'm actually going to share that recording with you. Okay? So, Alec, can you go ahead and just do something kind of quick for us? Say, welcome to EdIT, something like that?
Sure thing. Can I get a countdown, please?
3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome to FIU EdIT 2022.
Go.
Okay.
All right. So, we can cut that feed there. Whoa. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about this studio, right? So basically, this is a 16 by 16 space. There's 21 cameras that make up the system. The very interesting thing about the system and these cameras is that each camera itself is made of multiple cameras, an RGB camera and an IR camera. The RGB camera itself, they work like a traditional camera that you would use on your phone, right? So they pretty much just take pictures. The IR cameras work a little bit differently. That actually gives depth, right? So now we can use this when we place these two things together to kind of make a model. So when we use these cameras in tandem and we record, it basically takes this package, puts it onto the computer, then it uploads it to the cloud where it's rendered and returns back a 3D model. Now, this 3D model can be placed in any virtual world, right? So throughout this conference, you've seen it used in a traditional media way, right? Now, the thing about that is you can do this in other ways too, right? So the great example is the weather person, right? So that would be how they would do it traditionally, where they just have a green screen, you put a camera on them, and they key out the green and put whatever in the background. But there's one downfall to doing it that way, and it's more in a way of saying, okay, if you're, say, filming a movie or something of that sort, and you get the wrong angle, you have to refilm that, right? Because you need to get that angle. But if you do it in a volumetric capture scenario, you have all angles. So now, basically, when you build out your virtual world, you just move that 3D model as you want, right? But the exciting thing about that is not necessarily when you're using it in the traditional means. It's when you think forward, right? When we use this in mixed reality. So just imagine you can build a world that's not really feasible to really show in a classroom, right? A good example is we could build a world where it's a Mars terrain, and we can put our model of our professor giving a guided tour of that terrain. And again, this gives us more flexibility because now students can experience things that just they wouldn't be able to experience before. And there's a lot of benefits that other universities have already shown with their VR programs and AR programs, virtual reality and augmented reality, right? It helps with memory retention and recall, right? Student engagement. Students are happier with that learning experience, which is amazing. And we know that if we have a student that's not engaged versus a student that's engaged, there's a high probability that the student that is engaged is going to have a better learning outcome, right? So we want to make sure that we use tools like this so that we can get them immersed into that content, so that we get these great learning outcomes. And another really great benefit to this and improvement to the learning experience for the student is the fact that if you're outside the classroom, you're going to have the same experience as the student inside the classroom, right? So remote, in person, it doesn't really matter so much anymore. The playing field is leveled, right? So unlike the speaker before me, Gabe, with great presentation, my videos aren't very funny at all. So I'm going to show you a quick video that I made. Now, one thing that I'm going to point out, I'm not a digital artist whatsoever. And I just really wanted to show you how I could take a model that was recorded in a volumetric studio and put it into a world and then have user input. So this is an actual VR application, okay? It starts off in Unity, and then you see our world that we build. So this is me playing around in Unity, right? Going around. This is actually a breakdancer. And then I built this world where there's a little cabin in the back, some trees, some grass. There's this guy dancing around. And then there's that user engagement, right? And again, I'm not a digital artist, so I guess this just kind of shows you even management can do it, right? So super, super easy. Now, from what I've seen in the research beforehand, there have been some downfalls, right? Mixed reality has been used in the university setting pretty much since the beginning of VR. They have been limited by cost, right? And those costs come from hardware costs, which should pretty much fix itself in a way because you have companies like Meta spending billions of dollars, right? And should eventually drive down the cost of that hardware. Other costs are developmental costs, right? So if you say, Stephen, I want to make a mixed reality app for my course, right now you have some assets that you can pull from, but you're probably going to have to spend amount of time actually building out that code base to say, push your quizzes or whatnot in that VR app to Canvas. And we don't really have a great way of dealing with that. But this is another place where over the next year or so, my team is looking to help. We want to build a repository of assets that are centered around FIU that we'll be scanning in the studio and making in various tools. And we also are looking to build a framework so that we can cut down those developmental costs, so that basically now you say, okay, I need a module to, say, push to Canvas gradebook. We'll have a module that can do that. That's the big thing that we want to push for, right? Another thing that universities have been have had issues with in this space is another thing called the uncanny valley, and this is something that Meta is actually having a big problem with right now, right? So the uncanny valley is saying that there's a point where if something doesn't look real enough, it actually becomes a distraction, right? So if you're immersed in something and you're distracted from, say, the content that you are supposed to be taking in, if you're looking at a chair or a person and you're like, man, that doesn't look right, rather than saying, okay, I'm supposed to be going back to our Mars situation, supposed to be looking at the rocks and taking off the data about that, that's a problem, right? So that's the uncanny valley. So one issue that I was actually this morning listening to from Meta was that people don't like their app, mostly because they're caught in an issue where the avatars are a problem. And the avatars have no feet. That freaks people out. Also, the way their hands move, right? Like, it's not realistic. And then it becomes a distraction, and their users are kind of pushing back and saying that something's not right about this application. Now, the great thing about what we have here at FIU is that this volumetric capture actually limits that uncanny valley, because it's going to look real. It's a capture of you, right? So it's not like it would look partially off. It's not going to be off. It's one-to-one. So that's basically how we can address these issues. But now here's my call of action to all of you guys, right? So I can provide the technology to do these things, but you're the people that will provide the content. You're the people that will get this in front of the students. So if you think that you have an idea, we want to talk to you. We want to help you out. This is a partnership. We want to make sure that we open this up to the community and allow people to use this. So you can reach out to us the old-fashioned way by email, right? Volumetric capture at FIU.edu. Or, the IT preferred way, Ask IT, right? There's a plug. Bobby, you like that? All right. And actually on the website, there's just one button that points you to Ask IT. So if you can't find it, go that way, right? And what I promised is the QR code. All right, so 2 ways to get here. You can scan the QR code. If you're in the back, you may need to actually zoom in a little bit. If you can't hit the QR code, you can go to go.fiu.edu/edit model. Either way works, right? And now you'll see, once it loads up, you'll be able to drop that AR model right on your table or whatnot, okay? Let's see. And, there is this thing called the live demo gods, right? So the one moment that I say, it's going to work, and then, oh, yeah, so we got one guy who got it working. So mission accomplished. Oh, also, you can use your fingers to resize it. You could spin it around. It's really cool. All right. So any which way, I just want to finish just to say, please reach out if you're interested. We give tours, things of that nature, and I look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing what you guys can come up with. Take care, everybody.